Hello, friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Michelle Fondin, and I'm the author of 11 published books, including The Empowered Divine Feminine, Becoming an Unstoppable Woman in the 21st Century and Beyond, and Heal Yourself, A Return to Wholeness, the integration of body, mind, soul, and spirit. All of my published books are available on Amazon. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for subscribing below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. I do tarot and astrology readings. You can book that at my website, michellefondinauthor.com. Welcome to the Empowering Thoughts video on, do you really need someone to save you? This is not religious. This is not political. This is on self-actualization. So on this channel, we're talking about self-empowerment, self-actualization, and self-realization. All of those things to make you become very empowered in yourself. Now, if you hear a little kitten meowing in the background, I have a new resident kitten here with me who is barely a week in the house, a week tomorrow in the house. I'm recording this on Thursday. And the kitten is currently locked away in a room because she cannot sit still. She has a very active nature. So there you go. You hear the meowing. Kitten's fine. She's just locked in a room, in her room with plenty of toys, and just is annoyed that I'm out here talking. I want to talk to you really about this concept of, do you really need someone to save you? And I'm thinking, a couple of things that came to mind as I was thinking about this topic were, it's a 3 Days Grace song called I Need a Hero to Save Me Now. If you like 3 Days Grace, you know what I'm talking about. If you have no idea who it's a 90s band. 3 Days Grace is, I think it's 90s or maybe early 2000s. I am dating myself. I really don't know. So the second thing that comes to mind is from the Walt Disney movie, Hercules. And there is a line in there where Hercules is talking to his mentor, which I can't remember the name now, but he is like, what you really need is a hero. And I'm just reminded of all of those Marvel movies, the Avengers, all of the things that we like to watch. We like the concept of having a hero. We like the concept of having somebody out there who is rooting for us, the us being a collective. But we like the idea of a hero. We like the idea of someone to come and save us. There's been a lot of conversations, and I really don't talk about politics or religion as much as spirituality and oneness. I like to talk about self-empowerment, like not relying on anybody else. My mentor, Wayne Dyer, used to call that self-reliance. And I like to call it what Abraham Maslow called it is self-actualization. And what all the yogis talked about is self-realization. And so just think about this. If ever in your entire life, and maybe that's happening to you now, anywhere in your whole life, if you've ever looked to the outside world, whether it was on an economic level, even a political level, but on an outside level, it could be a romantic level, right? It could be about a job situation level, or even a leader rising in your family, for example, to like take the lead in the family and make some decisions that you wouldn't want to make. So we think about this need sometimes, that we think it's a need to look outside of ourselves, to have a hero, to have a savior, to have someone save us from our disasters, someone to save us from our things in our lives that we're really unhappy about, things where we feel disempowered, things where we feel like we don't have any control or power. And so what happens is we begin to make excuses for ourselves and our own sense of lack of power. And we look to the outside world, to a hero or a savior, for someone to step up to the plate to save us. Now, let's just take, for example, if you're really, really worried about the economic situation in your area, your country, your state, your whatever, your collective. And this is a common one because a lot of people really make excuses surrounding economics. They're like, oh, the Dow Jones is low and therefore everything is destroyed, or interest rates are too high, therefore I can't get ahead financially. And so a lot of people blame their financial situation on external factors, external circumstances. And they're like, well, if only interest rates would be lower, then I would be out of my financial rut. Right? So there's that looking to the outside, looking to the exterior, making excuses for your current situation and saying, if only somebody out there corrected the situation, then I would be in a better financial state. Okay? That's just one example. Let's take another example. Let's take the example of romance. So a lot of people are looking for love. They're looking for romance, myself included, but they're looking for a romantic partner sometimes for the wrong reasons, right? So it's like, I'm so depressed. I am so alone. I feel this sense of loneliness and despair. If only I could find a romantic partner and someone to marry, someone to live my life with, I would feel so happy. So again, looking to the outside, looking to that potential romantic partner as your hero, as the person who's going to come and save you from your unhappiness, from your loneliness. And when we look at that person from that vantage point of that person is coming in to save me from my loneliness, save me from my despair, it puts so much pressure on that other person that they feel it. And a lot of times they run away from that, or they might come in, they might save you from your loneliness and despair. But then once that relationship gets underway and they have their own lives, and yes, you share some moments together, but you're still feeling that loneliness again or that despair again when they're not giving you attention or they're not spending enough time with you. And so it's like, I look to that outside person to save me from my loneliness, and now they're here, but they're off doing other things, and now I feel lonely again. How is that? Recently, and I'm not going to go into anything political I already mentioned, but just think about the dichotomy of looking outside of yourself for your city, state, government, or whatever, and going one side or the other. It doesn't matter which side you're on, but one side or the other going, if this person comes in as my hero, as someone to save my situation or my neighbor's situation or my city's situation or my country's situation, when they come in, everything is going to be okay. It's like magic, right? It's like magic. Everything's going to be resolved. And that's never the situation, right? Because you need to be okay with you and where you're at now. You need to be okay with who you are and how you are managing your finances, how you're managing your love life, how you're managing your own happiness factor, how you're managing your own job situation or your entrepreneurial situation or managing your friendships or family. You need to be in charge of that. And in fact, the more you are in charge of that self-actualization, right? That is all self-actualization, because self-actualizing people do not wait around for other people to save them. Self-actualizing people have an internal reference point, not an external reference point. That internal reference point is, I am in charge of my own happiness and well-being. No one on the outside of me is in charge of that. Not my kids, not my spouse, not my parents, not my bank account. I am in charge of my own peace, well-being, happiness, progress, goals. And again, if you want to talk about connecting to a higher power, of course, your higher power, right? But in this video, we're not even going that far, right? We're stretching this, but we're not even going that far in this video. We're only going to the point at which you do not need a hero to save you. You do not need someone on the exterior to you to save your life, if you will. You don't need that. You have everything, even on a health level. Now, you might be thinking I'm 100% wrong, and I talked about this when I did my live stream on Enlightened Medicine, Your Power to Get Well Now. And if you have not yet viewed it, check it out here. Your body has the healing capacity inside of you. Everything you need for health, wholeness, healing, and wellness is on the inside of you. You've just been conditioned to believe that it's not. And that's why when we get illnesses or when we feel dis-ease, when we have diseases, we are searching on the outside of us because that's what we've been conditioned to do. That is what we have been conditioned to do in every situation. So when you look at it as, oh, I'm really disappointed because no hero has come toward me to get me out of my debt or save me or get me a better job or save me from my own loneliness and despair, or to spend time with me, for example, it all has to do with you. You are your own savior. Now, this is really super important in relationships that are codependent to understand this principle. Most people have at least one codependent relationship in their lives, and not all are because of addiction-related things. Many are, where someone is addicted to a substance and therefore the other person is the codependent, meaning they are trying to be that person's savior. And so when I'm doing my coaching and in the videos that I've done on alcoholism, addiction, recovery, and in my book, Help, I Think My Loved One's an Alcoholic, I always say the same thing. And this is something I had to learn upon being in a codependent relationship with someone who was drinking too much. I had to learn that I was not that person's savior. Because think about it this way. If you are another person's savior and you are getting them out of sticky situations time and time again, and so we're shifting the perspective here, if you notice. So I shifted it from you needing to be saved on an external basis to a codependent relationship in which you are the savior, right? Because if you look at it that way, it'll be much easier for you to shift it back into your way of looking at the outside world. So when you are in this relationship and you want to help them heal, for example, or you want to help them succeed, and you overstep the boundary into doing everything for this person or doing many things for this person time and time again, it enables them to stay in an unhealthy pattern. And it also helps them to turn around the blame to you if things in their life don't get better. Does that make sense to you? So if you're their savior, if you're always bailing them out, whether it's by buying them food, paying for their shelter, or giving them a ride to places A, B, or C, and you're always bailing them out of their troubles in saying, I'm helping them, but really what you're doing is trying to be their savior because they can fully take care of themselves. And if they can't, then they definitely need to get help on a bigger level here. The reason why people in codependent relationships, they have that dynamic because the person who is sicker or less than in the way or capacity of being able to take care of themselves, they like it that way. The reason they like it is because they get to blame you if you're not saving them enough. Do you get that? They get to blame you. Because if you're telling them what to do, if you're saying, hey, you need to stop drinking, you need to stop smoking pot, you need to stop doing drugs, or you need to stop gambling, or you need to stop being a shopaholic, and you're doing things to help them or bail them out, when things don't go right, or when they slip up, they get to blame you because you weren't helping enough. You weren't saving enough. Now put this back into perspective. We're gonna reel it back to put it into perspective with you wanting someone on the outside to save you. Someone. Again, whether it be a doctor, the government, the economy, a religion even, right? It could be a religious organization. That's why a lot of people get very disenfranchised or disenchanted with their religious organizations, because they go to these places of worship, for example, and they become part of a community of these places of worship, expecting a certain result. Right? You go expecting that you are going to teach me about religion, or you are going to teach me about connection to God. But then when you see, if this is you, if you see that the people in the congregation are imperfect people, or that the pastor or the rabbi or the imam or the leader is an imperfect person, an imperfect human being, they then fall from your graces. And then you blame them for not leading you in the proper way. So again, when we look to the outside, it's really easy for us to sit back and blame that quote unquote hero for not doing for you what you expected them to do for you. And that, my friends, is total disempowerment. Self-actualization. Self-actualization is much harder. Self-actualization is taking all of everything back onto you. All of everything back onto you. I am responsible for my problems. I am responsible for my happiness. I am responsible for, you fill in the blank. And when you do that, you bring the power back to you. No one else is responsible for you. No one else is responsible for your anything. You are responsible for you, and you get to choose. Woo! Isn't that amazing? Now, I know you're saying to me, Michelle, inside your head somewhere, you're saying to me, but Michelle, laws exist. Policies exist. There are certain boundaries that exist in the place where I live. And therefore, I don't have all the power. I am totally disempowered. And my answer to you is yes, policies, rules, regulations, laws, they do exist. However, you are not a tree, as my other teacher, Jim Rohn, had said. And Jim Rohn was my teacher after he died, because I've listened to all of his material. He was Tony Robbins' mentor, but brilliant man, absolute brilliant man. He used to say, you're not a tree. You're not a tree. You're not planted or rooted in one specific area for the duration of your entire existence. You're not a tree. You don't have deep roots into the soil where you're standing. You have the liberty of moving. You have the liberty of replanting yourself somewhere else that doesn't have the same rules, regulations, limitations, boundaries. And you might say, well, Michelle, every place has rules, regulations, laws, and limitations. Maybe not somewhere out in the bush of Africa. Even then, there are some rules, right? But maybe not as many. But you get my point. My point is, when you become a self-actualizing person, you no longer have to look for a hero. You are your own hero. You are your own hero. And I know I've said this before. I believe it's worth saying it again. I believe it is worth saying it again, and that is why I am saying it. Therefore, if you believe yourself to be a self-actualizing person in which there is no one to blame for any of the situations that you are in, you are responsible for all of the situations, circumstances, and events that you are in, and you get to choose. You get to choose what your outcomes are like. Because if you believe that if only the economy were better, I would be better, there are people in very poor economies that are doing quite well. How does that happen? How does that happen? And if you think my loneliness would just go away if I could find the perfect mate, well, let me tell you right now, there are single people perfectly happy and not lonely, and they don't have the perfect mate. How does that even happen? Right? How do any of these things happen? So when you get to take back your power, when you get to say, the only hero in my story is me, the only hero in my story is me, the only savior in my story is me. And like I said, we're not even connecting to the spirituality part of this, right? We're leaving that out of this video for now because this is the first step in the process. When you say nobody else is responsible, because even I'll throw in a little like spirituality there toward the end of this video just to intrigue you a little. But even people who say God is responsible for my happiness, they are wrong. God is not responsible for your happiness. Absolutely not. God gave you free will, so you could be responsible for your happiness. So yeah, no cop out there either. So self-actualizing people are in charge of their lives. They're happier with their lives. They're more content with their lives. They take responsibility for their lives. They understand the principles that they co-create their own reality. And because they do, there is no singular savior or hero outside of them. And if you can grasp this and truly grasp this, my gosh, you will be so much more bored. I'm just teasing. What I mean is, so much of our energy is spent on trying to look on the outside for who to blame, or whom to blame, I should say. So much energy is spent on that. And so much energy is spent on supporting for or against one cause or another cause, whatever that cause happens to be. And when you release all that, when you release all of that, you have so much more time to pay more attention to your life and your choices and your thoughts, which is where your power lies anyway. So I hope this inspired you for this week with empowering thoughts. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for subscribing to my channel below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications, and thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. Thank you for sharing this video for others who could use some empowering thoughts. Thank you so much for your support of my YouTube channel. You can buy one of my 11 published books. You could book a reading with me or join my meditation course online. And I will see you in the next video.